So Chicago police are worried about riots tonight because they've released these 9 videos in the shooting of Paul O'Neill last week, killed by police officers as he's fleeing a traffic stop in a stolen Jaguar. Now, before our Black Lives Matter people get all upset, Black Lives Matter, perhaps you should condemn stealing vehicles and running from police. Maybe that would be a pretty good start in your public outcry and your public comments. We've got the lawyer for this guy, Michael Oppenheimer, coming out today saying that Paul O'Neill was, quote, murdered. He was murdered. And the video captures a police officer with his own body camera telling a colleague right after the shots rang out, blank man, I'm going to be at a desk for 30 blank damned years. So I think the police officer just realized, yeah, something here didn't quite go right. Well, let's sort it all out. Can police officers shoot at a car if it's driving away from them? Joining me on the DeMaio Report is someone who knows a lot about it, Bobby Kimbrough. He's a law enforcement expert and author of Surviving the Stop. Bobby, thanks for swinging by.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
So, have you seen the videos from Chicago that were released earlier today?
Yeah, I've watched it several times.
You know, I defend police officers a lot. They have hard jobs. I don't think that there's an issue of racism. I do believe that there's sometimes an issue of inappropriate use of force, and that's an issue of training, not of motivation or racism. When you look at this, what struck me is that you got this Jaguar hitting these police cars, and then as the Jaguar drives away, I'm hearing multiple shots from officers into the back of a car. Is that legit, or is it an issue of, well, he's perhaps a danger to others, so we've got to stop this car that's out of control?
First of all, let me thank you again for having me. When I saw the video, I was very disappointed in the action that the officer took because from my vantage point, the vehicle nor the driver was a threat to anyone at that point. To me, it was poor decision-making by the officers because you're in a residential area discharging rounds downrange. I mean, what were you hoping to accomplish by it? The threat had left you. The threat no longer presented a danger. And, I mean, I'll be the first one to support my brothers in blue that carry the shield. I'll be the first one to support them. But at the same time, I'll be the first one to say, hey, we got to do better because the public expect more from it. And what I saw in the video, that was, to me, that was very disheartening with not only what the action that they took, but the lack of professionalism and the lack of what I would call human dignity for a shooting or taking a life to reduce it to 30 days at the desk. To me, that I didn't like
actually, he said 30 years at the desk.
30 years at the desk. That's very distasteful.
Yeah.
Very distasteful.
Well, when you take a look at the number of shots that rang out, because I lost count after like 10, I'm hearing constant gunshots as they're chasing this guy. Is that normal to have that many gunshots discharged by police officers?
You know, the action, here's the thing. The number of gunshots, if the threat presents itself to you, but at this time, there was no threat, so there was no reason for the gunshots. What were they trying to accomplish? That would be my first thing if I was sitting in the review board. My question would be, what were you trying to accomplish? The vehicle was not a threat to you, nor a threat to no one in front of you. As a matter of fact, you created a threat when you discharged the rounds in a residential area at the vehicle.
So, you know, you come from law enforcement, and you understand the very deeply the issues of race in America. I'm seeing most of these issues, whether it's the issue in Baton Rouge or in Minnesota or these videos here out of Chicago, as less about racism, because I'm not seeing any evidence of these people being card-carrying members of the KKK, expressing prior views that black people are bad. Instead, Bobby, what I'm seeing is some poor training and poor policies on use of force. Do you agree with that assessment, that it's less about racism and more about, hey, we got to really figure out how to improve the training of these cops so that they understand the appropriate and inappropriate use of force?
Well, being an African American myself, I understand both sides of the coin, but I also understand that all of us bring to the table a certain degree of biasness in us. All of us do. And we react in most cases or respond based on our experiences. And a lot of times we need to go forward. Training is a continual thing, whether it be cultural diversity, whether it be communication with the people that we serve. We've got to introduce, as we're currently doing, training with not only the law enforcement, with the community. It has to be a we thing, not a black thing, not a white thing, not a police thing, but we the people, for the people, got to fix this, because it's not only a problem with police and the rich, the poor, but it's a systemic problem which causes this thing, this remnants of what we've created, this culture of what we've created. And we've got to change the atmosphere. If not, we're going to keep getting the same outcome.
Do you think that the Black Lives Matter groups and other politicians in this country who jump immediately to rank racism, that it's all about racism, without talking about some of these other issues of improved training and use of force, do you think that they're doing a disservice to the national conversation by jumping down that narrative?
I think the narrative that we need to approach is, let's sit down and have dialogue, because I mean, it would be foolish for anybody living in America not to think that racism does not exist. I mean, I've lived it, I've experienced it, I've seen it at all levels of our society. So I think that we've got to start a new narrative of let's have dialogue, let's address some issues. But that's what makes our country so great, the differences that we have. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem becomes when your biasness affects how you treat me based on your biasness, versus treating me based on how I come across in the relationship that you and I have. That's where you lose me at, or that's where I get lost at every now and then.
Bobby Kimbrough Jr., he's a law enforcement expert as well as author of Surviving the Stop. Appreciate you swinging by and helping us sort through these videos that have been released in the Chicago area.
I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on.